Picture this. You're exiled on a tiny island in the Mediterranean, your glory days seemingly behind you. The world thinks you're down for the count. The once mighty Emperor of the French is now ruling over a tiny island and a population smaller than a single Paris neighborhood. But instead of giving up, you plan the greatest comeback in history. This is the wild tale of Napoleon Bonaparte's daring 100 days escape. Let's rewind to 1814. After years of dominating Europe, seriously, he had been undefeated for most of his career, Napoleon's empire finally crumbled. One by one, his allies turned on him. A coalition of European powers, fed up with his never-ending wars and thirst for power, marched on Paris. Napoleon, defeated and forced to abdicate, was sent packing to the island of Elba. Now, Elba wasn't some tropical paradise. Sure, it had its charm, coastal views, a mild Mediterranean climate. But let's face it, this wasn't the kind of retirement Napoleon had in mind. To make matters worse, his so-called kingdom consisted of 12,000 people, a few small towns, and yes, some goats. He spent his days inspecting tiny military drills, overseeing minor public works projects, and throwing the occasional banquet. But deep down, he was plotting his next move. You see, Napoleon wasn't the kind of guy to sit back and relax. While the European powers toasted to their victory, Napoleon was busy gathering intelligence, staying in contact with loyalists, and watching for any sign of weakness in the new regime. He knew one thing for sure. France wasn't happy with their new king, Louis XVIII. The monarchy's return had left people nostalgic for the days of Napoleon's glory. By February 1815, Napoleon decided it was time. With a hand-picked crew of about 1,000 loyal followers, he launched his daring escape. Under the cover of night, they slipped past British patrol ships. The plan was simple but audacious. Sail to France, march on Paris, and take back his throne. Imagine the scene, Napoleon on the deck of his ship, staring into the dark horizon, knowing that success meant reclaiming an empire, and failure meant certain death. And what about the British Navy? They missed him. The officers patrolling Elba woke up the next morning, sipping tea, and probably did a double-take when they realized their prisoner had just vanished. That had to be an awkward report to file. When Napoleon landed on the southern coast of France, the gamble began. Now, keep in mind, he didn't have an army waiting for him. He didn't have guns, cannons, or even supplies. All he had was his reputation, and that turned out to be enough. Napoleon began his march to Paris, covering hundreds of miles on foot and horseback. Along the way, Louis XVIII's government sent soldiers to intercept him. But here's the kicker. Every time Napoleon met these soldiers, they switched sides. It's like a scene from an action movie. Napoleon would ride up, dismount, and speak directly to the troops, reminding them of their shared victories. One time, he even threw open his coat and said, "If any man would shoot his emperor, here I am." Spoiler alert, no one did. It was a phenomenon. Everywhere he went, peasants, soldiers, and even former enemies joined him. Crowds cheered, soldiers saluted, and within 20 days Napoleon was back in Paris. King Louis. He bolted for the border faster than anyone expected. For 100 days, Napoleon ruled France again. He reformed the army, rallied his supporters, and prepared for war. But Europe wasn't about to let him stay on the throne. The coalition of Britain, Prussia, Austria, and Russia rallied their forces to crush him once and for all. The showdown came on June 18, 1815, at the Battle of Waterloo. It was Napoleon's final stand. Despite his brilliance as a general, the odds were stacked against him. Facing overwhelming numbers and betrayal from some of his allies, Napoleon's dream came to an end. He was defeated and exiled once more, this time to the remote island of Saint Helena in the Atlantic. Escape from there? Impossible. But here's the thing. Napoleon's 100 days didn't just end in defeat. They cemented his legacy as one of the boldest leaders in history. His escape from Elba and return to power is the ultimate underdog story, a testament to the power of ambition, courage, and sheer determination.